Okay, I came here to Manhattan, to this wonderful place to be a nurse, because I was brought up in Boston, and in Lowell, Massachusetts, which is part of Boston, and my mother said, "You'd better call the doctor and find out who those people are." So I called the secretary, and she said, you bring the paper that they sent you, and he'll be glad to see you. And Lowell, which was the city I lived in, was a big city, and it was close to 100, many cities. And I said to the secretary, "I'll bring my paper from the school in New York, and I want him to look at it." So she said, "Okay." And she called me when he was finished at his office, and I went in, and he said to me, "Oh, it's nice to see you." I had 3 sisters other than that, and I handed him the paper, and I said, "These people said I should go to their nursing school." And he opened it, and he said to me, "Oh, my God." He said, "Do you know anything about this college?" And I said, "No, but I want to be a nurse to people who are sick." So he said, "Well, you're very lucky. My advice to you is get out of Massachusetts and go to New York, and you will have the time of your life at that hospital. It is it's unusual." It was a wonderful place to be a nurse. People were very serious about what you were doing with yourself and what you had to learn and how you had learned. And I will tell you my favorite story that I have told my children and my son and other people about going to work, probably close to the 3rd year I was going to school. And I was in the tunnel, and I was rushing to get to work. And I came around a corner, and a man was pushing a patient who needed to get to the operating room. And he was all alone, and he was really having a lot of problems. And I said, "Can I help you?" And he said, "I would love you to help me, because I need to get this person where she belongs." So I said, "Fine, I'll help." So I got the back near her head, and he was pulling the front. When he finally got to where he wanted to go, this woman opened her eyes. You know, she had that business that people who are ready to be operated on, their eyes are a little unusual. But she looked at me, and it was the only thing she had said. She said, "Thank you very much for getting me here." And I realized it was Elizabeth Taylor. And her eyes were wide open, and she had purple eyes, the likes of which I had never seen in my life, either before or after we got her where she went to be. So it was a wonderful, wonderful event for me, and I was just doing regular work in the hospital. I don't think there is anything. I went to a college, not to a college, a place downtown on 83rd Street with 3 other friends. And most people, when we were getting finished school, people went across the street, got on the bus, and went across the George Washington Bridge and wanted to get an apartment out of there. We wanted to be in Manhattan so we could move around and see what was going on down there. So I think there's a lot to be said for that, for people who want to be really part of this kind of school. Well, I live now in Boston, in a part of Boston. My husband died when I was relatively young, and we were living in Maine because his father, his uncle, many people in his family were first-cracking, wonderful, wonderful physician, and my husband was a physician. So I had 4 children, And that was the busy part of my life, to be taking care of them. And Maine is a beautiful place, and it really is a beautiful place. There's about 16,000 people there, and there's wonderful colleges, and I found it a really important place for my children to be brought up in. And then when they left left Maine, they were happier to be out. I was happy for them to be out looking at the rest of the world and see what it was like. Well, nursing is important because they have a whole different reputation of how you handle people who are sick and who need help and who get put in places where they really need serious women, by and large. There are now men who do that from the military, but it is an extraordinary way to spend your time in life.